I don't normally do 2 videos in one day on the same topic, but the video that we posted earlier this afternoon caught the ire of the censors at YouTube in a way that I haven't seen in a long time. They initially tried to shut the comments section off multiple times, and I had to go in manually and restart it, and that's what's caused the algorithm to flag it, and the reason it's getting absolutely no traction. I had to rewatch the video slowly to figure out what it was that struck a nerve with them so bad, and it dawned on me. And believe it or not, it actually has to do with the Georgia Guidestones, what we were talking about a couple of days ago. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads. Florida Maquis, I saw that video. It has nothing to do with the video you posted earlier. It really actually does. What is the first tenet of Satanism? I really can't believe I didn't see this before. The first tenet of Satanism is do what thou wilt. The law of Thelema. This idea that if it feels good, if it comes from within you, if it feels like it's your destiny, do it. Follow that path no matter where it may lead. Don't think about it. Don't worry about the consequences. Just follow your path. You become the best you can be. The law of Thelema talks about determining true will. Look both of these up. It's connected to hedonism. It is connected to so many different other pagan beliefs that you couldn't possibly say that anyone who would believe this would have any use for any guidelines whatsoever. The very idea of a guideline or a guide stone is directly antithetical to the beliefs of Satanism. There's no way that a Satanist would put up a giant monument with a bunch of rules, because they don't believe in rules of any kind, especially the idea of temperance, which is the idea of reining in your passions. Satanism teaches the very opposite. This would be a monument against Satanism. Now, what does this have to do with the video earlier today, though? Some are probably scratching their heads saying, hey, we watched the video earlier today. Had nothing to do with it. It actually did. It actually did, because we put forth the scenario. It's a grid down scenario. The power has gone out. There's no internet. There's no government. You're left. You've got a group that's surviving on its own. And there's been this report that there are these young kids running around, and they're looking in windows and doing things they shouldn't. And you go and you scrape these kids up, you find them, and you bring them back, and you turn them over to the female leaders of your group, because they're minors, they're little kids. And you have them instill limits on behavior. You have them instill limits on behavior. And that's exactly what corporal punishment was always designed to do. This was one of the images we use, that in a grid down, power down situation, you might have to construct something like this so that people would have the ability to go bathe. The indoor systems wouldn't work because, of course, that requires so much electricity. You see, to a group of random young kids, young boys, the idea of finding a space where maybe you can't be seen, but you can see, boy, that feels good. That feels like they're on their true path. That's something they definitely want to do. They couldn't think of one wrong thing about it. And what does Satanism also say? Do what thou wilt. Whatever feels good at the time. If you have 0 and somebody you stumble upon has dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of cans of food, and you've got nothing, it feels right, it feels proper for you to just take it. You don't have to ask permission. Who was it recently that said, it is better to seek forgiveness later than to ask permission first? Was that Travis Kalanick of Uber, or was that Elon Musk? It was one of those billionaires. I can't remember which one it was, of those billionaires that subscribed to that theory that it is better to do something wrong and then ask forgiveness later than to seek permission and be denied. See, this is where it all gets glued together. You see, the idea of there being corporal punishment for the actions, whether it be the peeping Tom or the stealing or whatever it was, trespassing, whatever it was, it would be setting guidelines down, setting behavioral standards. If XYZ thing is done, ABC will be the resultant action or punishment. Now, it also dawned on me, I was having a conversation with someone else, that in my earlier video, I had asked, should you have a conversation about this with perhaps the female leader of your group and say, it's up to you, whatever you want to do here. It's probably a decision that should have been made long before this ever happened. That when it comes to whatever group you're in, if you're in a survival group and there are minor children, you should probably say that, okay, the decisions regarding the minor children fall to the women, leaders of the group. Because the minors, the little ones, that's their area. That's their AO, so to speak. You handle the defense, you handle the fortifications, you handle the foraging and the hunting and the fishing and the providing, and you do what men do, and you let them do what they do. Division of labor. This is done in the military, and it's done anywhere anybody has half a brain. The video that I'm talking about is titled, Will Men and Women Share Responsibilities Equitably During a Grid Down Scenario, Reality Now Looming? But if you want to look up Satanism and what it stands for and what it believes, do what thou wilt. The Beatles. Idea, do what you want, do what thou wilt, as long as you don't perceive it to hurt anybody. John Lennon. Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. See, this is the exact antithesis right here of do what thou wilt. The exact opposite of it. Because do what thou wilt says in its own existence that anybody else setting some type of a standard for you is wrong. You are the only one that can set a standard for yourself. That's it. No one else. If it feels good, do it. Just whatever pops into your head at that moment. You're really, in Satanism, not even supposed to consider the idea that unless you're physically doing something to harm somebody, what the long-term ramifications of your actions are supposed to be. You're only supposed to think about the right now in Satanism. And no one would enjoy this idea. You'd feel horrible for the kids. They were out on their own. They were scavenging, scamps, and hungry, and they were forced to do the things that they did. Well, at least the stealing part of it, not the other, but it would be doing them a favor in the long run to establish the level of discipline and give them a head start for their future. One of those things, by the way, that those of us who went through this should be thankful for, that we did, by the way. But it would be difficult for the person doing it. But it would be necessary in a grid down survival situation to have some standards of behavior and some level of authority so that things like this don't get allowed and don't run amok. But it is tied. It's absolutely tied into this. I didn't intend for it to be. But so many people are trying to war game and prepare, and what should we do? There are going to be those out there who want to take advantage of the unsure state of things and say, you know what, it's so hard to determine what right or wrong is. Just do what thou wilt. Just do what thou wilt. There's no authority anymore. The government's gone. There's no civil courts. There's no criminal courts. The power grid's down. The internet's down. You're just surviving on your own. Just do whatever feels good in that moment. You see, that's not going to be the solution. That's going to make things worse, not better. So something as simple as this, something as simple as just an outdoor shower could create all sorts of issues that nobody thought about and nobody prepared for because of, once again, the lack of civility that would result. I mean, nobody would want to see kids go hungry or, punish them in the sense that you could hold someone to that age. I'm not talking about 18 and 19-year-olds here, by the way. I'm talking about young kids, little kids, like you see in Colombia, like you see in Peru, like you see in Mexico, like you see in other nations that are just getting by day to day, week to week. I mean, a can of beans, it's a can of beans. Who cares about a can of beans? There's a bigger mission to be done here, at least for Christians, by the way. A much bigger mission. So, anyway, I will leave that there, and I will let you discuss and rediscuss, and hopefully this one doesn't get shut down as badly as the first one did. But I think we might have cracked open some unresolved issues with these censors in the Central Coast of California, that maybe they have something going on in their head that's particular to them that they need to work through. So, God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Have a great evening, and we'll see you guys next time.